There are moments from when we're kids that get burned into our memory, right? Usually it's a big event, something we saw, a first or a last. But sometimes it's not what you see at all, it's what you hear. Welcome back. I'm Mr. Ballin.
And I'm Mr. Nightmare. And that opening, that's the kind of detail that makes a story feel real. It's the specific, ordinary memory that makes the extraordinary part that follows so much more unsettling.
Exactly. This story was sent in by a listener, and it takes place on a night they remember more clearly than almost any other from their childhood. They were 13 years old.
That age is a crossroads, old enough to be left alone, to feel a sense of independence, of bravery, but young enough that when the reality of true fear sets in, that bravery evaporates instantly.
On this night, their parents were gone. Not unusual, but they were going to be out much later than normal. The safety net was their older sister, who was supposed to be home with them.
A promise was made. I'll be back before dark. We all know how those promises go when you're a teenager. The sun set, the house got dark, and our storyteller was alone.
A quiet suburban house, the kind of place where the biggest event is someone mowing their lawn on a Saturday. Their house was at the end of a short street. No streetlights, just trees, shadows, and the deep dark that gathers at the edge of developed land.
The routine was normal at first, making dinner, watching TV in the living room, but that feeling, that creeping sensation of the silence becoming too loud, it sets in. Around 9:30 p.m., that's when they heard it.
A sound at the back door. Not a knock, not a bang. A soft, deliberate tap. They muted the TV. Silence. Then,
the mind races. It's the sister, it must be. But a logical thread snags. She always uses the front door. Why the back? Still, hope overrides fear. They get up. They walk toward the hallway that leads to the back of the house.
And as they get closer, the tapping stops. They're standing there in the quiet hallway, staring at the dark shape of the door, trying to convince themselves they're imagining things. And that's when they heard it. Not panicked, not heavy, slow, controlled. The sound of someone waiting, just on the other side of the door.
They whisper, "Hello?" Nothing. They fumble for the light switch on the wall, flick it on. The porch light floods on, but the breathing doesn't stop. It doesn't change, and that's when their eyes drop to the doorknob.
It's moving, just a fraction, a tiny, testing turn, back and forth. Someone is gently, quietly checking to see if it's locked.
That's the moment the heart truly starts to hammer. The moment you realize this isn't a mistake, this isn't a lost friend, this is intent. They step back, and then the handle goes still.
And a voice speaks, and this is the part that gets me. The listener said the voice wasn't angry, wasn't a growl. It was calm, almost friendly. "Hey, I think I've got the wrong house."
A lie. An immediate, practiced lie to de-escalate alarm.
"I just need to check something real quick." And with that sentence, the handle turns again. This time, not a test, a firm, deliberate attempt to turn it and push.
They ran, locked themselves in the parents' bedroom, called the police, hands shaking violently, and while they were on the phone, waiting for the sirens, they heard it.
Footsteps, inside the house, slow, deliberate, moving down the hallway they had just been standing in, then stopping, as if listening at doors, then moving again.
The police arrived fast. Lights, voices, security. They cleared the house. They searched the yard. They found the back door, unlocked, but no sign of forced entry, no one hiding in a closet or under a bed.
It was over. Just a scary story, a close call. But before the officers left, one of them noticed something. He pointed it out with his flashlight. The back door had one of those long, narrow windows beside it.
And on the outside of that glass, pressed into the thin layer of dust and pollen that accumulates on a window, was a perfect, clear outline. The shape of a face, a forehead, a nose, the curve of a cheek.
Someone hadn't just been at the door. They'd been standing there, pressed against the glass, looking in, watching. For how long? Before the taps? After? The officer's final piece of advice was to always, always keep those side windows covered.
Because sometimes the most frightening thing isn't the person trying to get in. It's the one who's already taken the time to look and is just waiting for the right moment to make their move.
This has been another strange, dark, and mysterious story delivered in story format. Be safe out there. We all have that one story, the one we replay in our heads when we can't sleep, the one that doesn't have a neat ending or a satisfying explanation. It just sits there, waiting.
And the most unsettling stories are often the ones that invade the ordinary, the familiar, the places, and even the sounds we think belong only to us.
This story came from a listener who was 26 when it happened. They say they still think about it almost every night. And the reason isn't just an intruder. It's what the intruder could do. It knew exactly how they sounded.
They lived alone, a small, quiet, one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. The kind of quiet that's peaceful until it isn't. The kind where, after midnight, the silence itself becomes a presence.
This particular night, they got home late from work, just after 11:30. A light rain was falling, muffling the outside world. They did the normal routine, locked the door, checked the deadbolt, keys on the counter, changed, made some food, settled onto the couch.
And that's when they heard their name, or more precisely, a single word, "Hey," spoken clearly from the dark hallway, and the voice was their own.
Their first reaction was to laugh it off, a trick of the mind. Maybe they'd spoken without thinking. But then it came again. "Hey, come here." Same voice, their voice, same exact tone they'd use to call a pet or get someone's attention.
That's the first violation, isn't it? Not just an invasion of space, but of identity. They stood up, hard hammering, and walked toward the dark hallway. They called out, "Hello?"
And a second later, from the darkness, the voice answered. "Hello?" A perfect echo. Not a mockery, not a taunt. A precise, clinical copy. Same pitch, same timing, the same slight hesitation.
That's when the fear crystallizes. This isn't a random burglary. This is something different. They back into the lit living room, grab their phone, and call their friend Mark, putting him on speaker.
As the phone rings, they hear the footsteps, slow, deliberate, in the hallway. They whisper into the phone, "Mark, I think someone's in my apartment." The voice came from just outside the hallway, a flawless replication. On the other end of the phone, Mark goes silent. Then he says quietly, "That wasn't you, was it?"
That confirmation from the outside world breaks the last thread of denial. They back towards the front door, eyes locked on the hallway entrance. The footsteps stop, and then a whisper, so close it feels like it's right in the living room with them.
"Don't leave." They didn't. They unlocked the door and ran, spent the night at Mark's, returned the next morning with him and the police.
A thorough search. Every room, every closet, under the bed, nothing. No signs of entry, no explanation. Case closed as a possible auditory hallucination, stress, and overactive imagination.
But as they were gathering a few things, about to leave the apartment for good, they noticed something in the bedroom, something they'd missed in the panic the night before.
The mirror on the wall, their bedroom mirror, and on its surface were fingerprints, clear, smudged impressions.
But not on the front, where you'd expect from someone touching their own reflection. These were on the inside of the glass, pressed flat against the back of the mirror, visible through it, as if someone had been standing there, in the dark, hands against the glass, practicing.
Practicing the face, the mouth movements, the voice, waiting for the right moment to use it.
This has been another strange, dark, and mysterious story, delivered in story format. You might want to cover your mirrors tonight.
Or at least check which side of the glass the fingerprints are on. Good night.